What is going on today, guys? Banger video today, hours of straight sauce. If you guys have been tired of seeing content creators cherry pick different things when their trades happen to play out, talking about too much theory and all of these concepts, what these concepts should do, you've come to the exact right place. I have compiled hours worth of footage of trade recaps that I post every day in my Discord, and I've compiled this footage to give you guys personal, real life, direct execution insight to real trades that I took and insight to why I take a trade, why I might fade a trade, and literally everything I'm looking for before I enter or don't enter a trade. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it. You guys have hours of straight up fucking sauce ahead of you. If you guys have any questions, let me know. You can join my Discord. It's going to be down in the description. I post these every day in the Discord. These are just some of the highlights, and I hope you guys have an awesome day. Good luck with the learning. All right, guys. Took a fire trade today. This might actually have been, I don't know, you guys are gonna have to tell me what you guys think, but I think this might be the best trade we've gotten in, like, this might be the cleanest looking trade we've gotten in like weeks. Not gonna lie. So essentially, going into the day, we were a little conflicted. Obviously, we respected this daily gap so far, but you can inverse a gap and just take multiple candles. And if we look at the setup, we swept out this low, which was a weekly low, which also mitigated us into like that monthly fair value gap as we saw. Which also mitigated this volume imbalance. We then came down. We then had a resweep within it, which created this order with rejection block, which we tapped into, which created our own rejection block, which we tapped into, and then swept a low inside of the rejection block, and then now we're going up. And we have a bunch of low resistance up to the upside. This is on the daily time frame, so we do overall we're generally looking higher more often than not. On the 4 hour, we just tapped into this 4 hour gap, but we had a 4 hour gap above that we wanted to target at first. And on the hourly time frame, it was this high, but we had to break this 1 hour gap to get there, so we were a little bit scared. But out of open, we didn't get any setup to the upside at all. We just started basically ripping. And this was a case where I didn't want to see a Judas swing I didn't care to see a Judas swing and then target anything back to the downside once we inverse this 4 hour. So we inversed the 4 hour, and then didn't really get a solid. This was before we inversed the 4 hour, so we didn't take this trade to the upside. But once we inversed the 4 hour around here, we started generating. Let me go back. We started generating lower resistance liquidity with multiple failure swings back up to this high, right? Right, multiple failure swings. This mitigates us into this resweep mitigates us into a 15-minute gap, and it also creates this 30-second fair value gap that we inverse here towards this LRL, which also breaks this internal trend line. And even if you draw it like this, it still breaks that trend line. So we entered here, stop loss below this low because it was protected, and then take profit at this high. Retested the trend line, huge move up, swept this out. So we went break even, by the way, at this high down here, because this was a first mitigation high on the 1 minute. Boys ripped through it, absolutely pumped. Then had a reaction. These highs were completely unprotected. There wasn't a huge reason to not take out these highs. But we ended up having what I assume is some type of bearish news here. So we got break even here. Super good trade. I would take this 10 million out of 10 million times. We were talking in the chat about that, about how good it was. So really good break even trade. If we went break even every time, or if we just took profit at the first high every time that we hit low resistance liquidity, we would have missed out on literally like so much money. I don't know where I don't know where the sign went, but Apex is 90% off today, and TradeFi is 40% off. But yeah, love you guys. Hope you guys had some good trading like we did today, despite the outcome. Whether you won or lost, as long as you followed your rules, you won today. Love you guys. All right, guys. Interesting day today. If you guys didn't know, we actually had no news. We have no news, no economic data news this entire week, which is pretty unique. I don't have a ton of data on exactly how price action acts in that situation, but just what I know about ICT says that like it should be pretty bad volume and institutions are going to be out of play, so price won't move exactly how it wants to, like how it normally moves. So obviously that is a slightly scary. Like that's not exactly like the highest confidence market conditions. So I didn't take any trades today. We did a bunch of just tape reading. First we tape read. We came out of open, and what we saw is we had a daily fair value gap actually up here. Daily fair value gap here that hadn't been mitigated. We had a big move up out of open. We came down, rebalanced this. It was like a 3-minute that we rebalanced right here. 2-minute right here. And then 1 minute, but on the 2 and 3 minute, it wasn't protected. On the 1 minute, technically, it was protected from this low, and then on the 30-second, it was protected from, resweep of this low, and then a resweep of this low. But on the 5 minute, we had just opened up a fair value gap that we just didn't mitigate, even though we didn't have that far away. So that was the main reason I didn't take this trade. Would have been fine though. Would have been just break even here. I did run to a total of at some point 1.5 R, but I would have probably played it to the daily gap if I took this trade. So this would have been BE. We then had this big move down. We inversed. We couldn't take this inversion to the downside because obviously we didn't inverse the 10-minute until we were down here, and then we didn't inverse the 5-minute. We just barely held the 5-minute, and then we dumped and ran all this low resistance liquidity. I would have taken a trade short if we got entry up here, then a retracement or something before we ran this, but we didn't. We then dumped through a 5-minute rejection block. Right this was like a 5-minute rejection block. We dumped through it, so I expected continuation to the downside. We rebalanced like a gap up here, like a 2-minute or something. Oh wait, we rebalanced this 2-minute, so there was no valid trade here. Then once we came all the way down, inversed this gap right here. That was our second. It was just super low in discount. This was not a super high probability low on the like internally. Oh, here's our most recent one. I'll go over that in a second. It'd be break even right now. So that was our next one. That one would have also gotten break even. Would have been brutal as fuck. It was really close. We were targeting a 5-minute rejection block. We then came up. We have this trend line. If we inverse this 30-second BPR to the upside, we would have taken longs. This is probably going to be the most common loss that anyone took, if anyone took losses, is because we had a 2-minute inversion to the upside, 1-minute inversion to the upside. So both those, we didn't have a 30-second, but I care very heavily about all time frames being inversed. So this 30-second obviously stopped me from taking it to the upside. We didn't inverse it, and then we came back down, inversed this bullish gap to the downside off of retesting the trend line, tapping into this 30-second order block and respecting it, and then obviously fully filling this fair value gap. That was the last one that we forward tested. We went break even here. I actually said that once we close this candle, like I went break even once we hit this, but once we close this candle, I probably would have put my stop back up here, because even if we came back up to this 30-second BPR, because it is a BPR, I would have expected it to go down. But in all transparency, I probably would have gotten break even on this as well, because I certainly would have gone break even at this low. So this probably would have been a break even trade as well. So we forward tested 3 break even trades in a row. And then the last one that we forward tested, or the second to last one, was this big long. This was the best trade of the day. The only time frame gap we had was this 1 minute after resweeping. We reswept, or we mitigated a 1 hour order block right here, and also mitigated a 30-second fair value gap right here. We got the 1 minute inversion to the upside. It was the only fair value gap. Then we went break even at this high, because this high the reason this high is important is because it lines up perfectly with retesting this fair value, this trend line. Once we inversed it, I probably would have taken and gone break even there. At the very least, we ended up running after we broke the trend line, obviously, as usual. And then I called that originally we wanted to mitigate this 5 minute that we had up here. Right, we don't have any other 5 minute before then. And I still think that we go up and do it, but it wasn't super high probability. I said it's not worth just like the slight amount of extra points. We might as well take profit here because this is the entrance of the 10-minute fair value gap. Internally, it's obviously a really important swing high, and it also mitigates us into this order block that would have to break for us to like hit the trade, borderline break to hit the trade. So this would have cashed, and then this trade that you just saw that hit that we actually almost got stopped. It would have almost gotten stopped out, and then we would have gotten break even on it, and it would be break even right now. Maybe it delivers, maybe it doesn't. But that was just after we swept that high like that pretty important key level that I was talking about. We got the highest time frame inversion. We got all time frame inversions, as you can see on the 30-second, right? And then nothing on the 2 minute. And then we would be break even. We would go break even at this intermediate low, the first mitigation low, and take profit at like probably this first mitigation low, which is what I guess I just said it wrong. We're delivering low right now, so maybe this trade might end up hitting, but either way, I don't really care. Just final reminder, by the way, that this is the last day that you can you can purchase the exclusive lifetime membership for the current price. It's going up by $500 after today, no exceptions. And it also comes with $100,000 in free funding if you get it today only. It was the last week, but like today's the last day, obviously. And then I never have sales on it, like ever. I have never had a sale on it. It's the price it is because I think sales are unfair. And then also, there's financing available. So if you can't pay the full $1,500 up front, you need to finance it. Just DM me and I got you. And then code DAYLOW is going to be 90% off and 40% off for a few more days. And then also the Apex $49 all in 50K intraday accounts are also on that sales active running. But yeah, these are sales. And okay, I don't want to leave the trade recap. Actually, no, you know what? Let me pause the trade recap so it just teleports you guys. But I'm gonna pause the trade recap recording until we see if this would have hit or not. And this would have hit, but it wouldn't have hit because it would have been a break-even trade for me. But like the break-even trade did end up playing out. So this is really funny. We ended up forward testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trades, 4 break-evens. 1, 2 of them of the break-evens would have won, 2 of them would have lost. And then, like, if you took them and didn't go break even, and then we called 1 win. So no losses today, so technically no losses. Technically only 1 win and 4 break evens. But yeah, I didn't take anything today. Low probability day. I think this was just fun. But anyways, love you guys. All right, guys, banger today on the live. And notice this right here. But anyways, I'm just kidding. Banger today on the live. How much hour was this? 5.4 hour. All right, so let's get into the trade recap of the day. All right, let's go over trade recap of the day. Just hit fully. Super late in session, but anyways, going to the day, I was neutral bias. We were trading within this high resistance high and then this high resistance low. It was high resistance, but it was also data lows. So it wasn't like whichever one we break out of first, we can just automatically take the same direction, right? As like normally we can. If this is protected by this, so it'd be like, okay, if we break this, we're just gonna dump all day. But this low is actually a data low, so there was still a chance that we reverse, and as you can see, we do have a little reaction to it. But then we do end up continuing to we just end up dumping, and at this point, we've now dumped like 227 points, which isn't amazing, which is insane for. It's not insane for New York AM session, but anyways, then we end up coming down to here. We kind of have a little bit of a ghost reversal. Like we don't sweep anything that really should reverse price as much as it did.
We wanted to see price tap into this 15 minute, and as you can see, this actually ended up being perfect. We literally, let me do bar replay. We literally ended up, we're looking at here, we see a little ghost reversal. I'm like, okay, I think we're still going to continue down. What do we see? We have a 15-minute gap here I want to see tapped into. We have a breaker block here, which if you guys don't know, it was an order block that got like ran through. Now it's a breaker block. We fib this and see that it lines up with just tapping into premium of this range for shorts, which is good. And then if we do it from the impulse leg down, this is perfectly OTE. On top of that, if you look at the 5 minute, it's actually a 5 minute BPR, right? So anyways, we end up coming up. Let me actually just go on the lower time frame. We were looking for shorts at really any moment because even though we had this like zone marked out, we were looking at shorts at any moment because it could have just reversed from like any of these levels. Like as soon as we tap into one of these levels, it could have reversed. But as you can see, we actually ended up going up to this level, and then we had a bunch of low resistance down here be created, so a bunch of trendline liquidity, which we also created a trend line. As you can see, we come down and respect it the first time. And I was like, okay, if we inverse this 30 seconds, it's going to look great. We end up inversing it, not there, but oh shit. We end up inversing it here and breaking the trend line. So this was the entrance with this 30-second gap here. So really, it would be like here would be like the stop loss. And yeah, so then we end up respecting the 30-second gap here, and then the targets were the bottom of this low resistance. There wasn't really, I didn't call out taking partials anywhere, because this was break even, like this would be the break even play, it's a model, and this would be TP. Like there's not really anything in between, because once you don't want to, you'd be like, oh, why don't we just take like partials here? It doesn't make sense, because this is a trend on liquidity. We assume we're just gonna rip through all of this once we hit it. Like if we hit this, we're gonna rip through all of it, right? So yeah. But anyways, we rip through that, come up and tap into this 1 minute, respect it. Boom, 5.4 RR, and yeah, so really good play. The only bad things about this play is, first of all, really late in session. I think the play happened at like 8:11, so right after we exited macro. The second thing is that we've just had really weird price action. Yesterday we were super choppy. Yesterday an A+ setup lost, so sometimes that signals that we're going into bad price action. ICT himself said to lower risk and to just be content with okay, because the trading could be really weird. But yeah, this was a really good trade. And I wasn't really worried when we had this little pullback. I did not expect this to reverse us whatsoever. That's why. But yeah, all right. That's all. Love you guys. All right. Sorry, I just wanted to. Oh wait, I actually do want to record one more thing. Sorry that. All right, I'm recording. All right, guys. So today we hit this banger short. Going into the day, I was neutral bias. We had good draws. We had decent draws below internally, like right here. We had decent draws, and then we had decent draws up here. You'd think that this was really good draws, but if you actually zoom in, you can see that this high is protected from this high. This high is protected from this high. This high is protected from all these highs that we took out. And then this high is protected from this high technically. So it's like, and then this high is protected, this high is protected from this high down here, if we zoom in. So like the draws up weren't great, but we did have these relatively equal highs right here. We had, okay, hello. It was this high and this high. So we came up and we didn't really get a great setup up to those highs. The best thing we got was we had like when we closed this 3 minute, I think we also closed like this 30-second as well. So it was a decent play if you just, the trade would be this. Maybe you could protect it with that if you were, I don't know, and then up to this high, obviously, then just break even here. Not a bad trade at all, by any means. Definitely not a bad trade. Um, by the way, the trade earlier you saw was we forward tested just taking the continuation off the trend line. Holy shit, this shit banked. She ended up banking for 8 RR, but like our forward test hit for 6 RR. But anyways, that was just kind of like a retarded, like some retarded bullshit. Um, but anyways, we ended up. Hold on, let me just make sure my audio is on for the recording. Okay, it is. Yeah. All right. So then, once we hit those highs, and hitting those highs, we also kind of had this internal stop hunt, as you can see, right? So we had both at the same time. We then get this 30-second inversion, which also breaks this trend line. And we had really, if you look at the 15-second, we actually had really good momentum going into it, right? As you can see right before we went up. And then literally, like, even if we look at, like, probably like even the 10-second, as you can see, like, we had a fucking huge falling knife. Got filled and just absolutely dumped. We literally had, like, 0 seconds of drawdown, just went straight down to TP. 1.7 RR, nothing crazy today. But it was perfect TP exit, right? If we targeted anything lower, this is also this order block, obviously. But if we targeted anything lower, we would have gotten stopped out break even, or if even stopped out if we didn't go break even for some reason. But yeah, I mean, as we're seeing here, we now actually got like we mitigated this gap. We swept this high. We just tapped into the wick of that sweep, and then now we're dropping down. I'm not super confident in anything anymore. We just took out this low within this wick, so maybe we're going up now. I don't really know though. Could go either way for me. But yeah, anyways, love you guys. Hope you guys cash today too, and code Daylight, all these prop firms for max discount.
What is up, boys? We're just gonna go straight into it. Today we're gonna go over how I made 13 bands today. 12.9, obviously. Oh shit, 12.9. 13 bands today on 8 funded accounts. And yeah, let's just get straight into it. I actually caught this, unfortunately, literally right after I hopped off the live. I probably wouldn't have taken this if I was on live, though, to be honest. So I guess it was like kind of, it was actually kind of low-key blessing that it happened right after the live, like in the nicest way possible. But basically what happened is we ripped. So I was really annoyed because going to open, we called the exact point where we were going to reverse off of. We wanted to see reversal off this order block. And what I like to see is some type of liquidity sweep in the order block if we can, if it's a high time frame order block, or sorry, rejection block, which is a 4-hour and 1-hour rejection block, right? And we have this low right there within the rejection block. So ideally what I want to see is I want to see us tap into it deep enough to sweep that. And as you can see, boom, sweep it perfectly. But we don't get any type of play off of it, unfortunately. Besides, we get like a 15-second play, but not even because we tap into this gap. What I wanted to see was us get this 30-second and then take it up. But what happened is we swept this high, and which manipulated us into this gap before close, which then made us have to wait for the 3-minute, which by the time the 3-minute closed, we had taken out like this high right here, which sucks. So I was like, it was invalid because that would be our break-even point, which honestly kind of saved us because we might have gotten stopped out if that didn't happen because we had a huge amount of drawdown, honestly, before. We ended up running, but anyways, we didn't really get any setup. The best type of setup we got to the upside was off of this retracement. We tapped into like a 2 or 3 minute and then got this 30-second inversion. It was just really small, which is why I didn't like it, but I did mention it, and I called if you enter, like I would want to see us enter off this gap because it is risky. And then the level of target would have been like probably it was this 1-hour high, or this high, with the 1-hour high within the 1-hour gap, which as you can see we hit, and you would have gone break even here, which there's no issues with. So that was 2.64 RR, but I didn't take that. We didn't take that. That was probably the best play we got long. But then once we did manipulate into that, what we actually saw is that we eventually opened up the 4-hour at 8 a.m. or 10 a.m., obviously, right? Which we manipulated up into, and then we actually took out, we had like, I think actually it might have been my student Austin, the boy Austin, who mentioned this, but we had basically like, whoa. Actually, I forgot what to say. But anyways, we created that 4 hour and then went up and swept this. And basically, I saw that we were generating a bunch of sell side liquidity to the downside. And eventually, we barely had created any gaps all session. Like literally, basically, almost had no inversions. Besides, we had like one tiny inversion here, one tiny inversion here, and that's basically all the inversions we had throughout the entire day. So we finally got an inversion. We had this gap here, and this was happening right as I was getting off. So I actually missed the original entry, which would have been here with your stop like here, I guess. Down to this, I think it's like a 15-minute gap. I think it's like a 15-minute gap. Oh wait, the 15-minute gap is a bit lower. So I gotta target this low. Down to this 5 and 15-minute gap. So actually a little bit lower than this low. But anyways, as I was getting off, that setup appeared. Unfortunately, we didn't get it. But what I saw is that we came up, and now that we have this inversion, and we actually have a BPR here, because we have this bearish fair value gap now. So this overlapping portion is a BPR. So what I decided is like, okay, if we come up and retest this trend line and close below it and respect the BPR, I'm going to enter, which is exactly what we got. And I could have a tight ass stop loss, right? It can basically top tick this entire thing and then target just like, I think I just targeted this low just in case. But anyways, that's 5.5 RR. Go break even here, just at this internal low. And we just ended up really good bottom tick. We didn't end up coming up past this high again, which is good. Break even there. And then after a little bit of choppiness, we did end up hitting it. So that's how that's page here. I can reload it, I guess. I don't know. I know you guys don't really think I'm LARPing, but I don't know. Since it happened like right off stream, I like to show as much proof as possible.
All right, guys, trade recap for today. We just hit this banger. I can turn on my executions. Boom. Here, let me do 15-second execution so you know for sure. As you can see, boom. Oh, so I guess we actually exited like here then because of the soft profit target. So that's over 3 RR. Entered here, as you can see. Almost got stopped out, but yeah, 3.5 RR. Anyways, guys, basically this trade was off of, let's go over it. So going into the day, we were super bullish. We were literally ripping through like basically everything, just like ripping up. Going the 15-minute, we had this huge imbalanced price range, and we had this 15-minute order block at the bottom, and we also had a 15-minute rejection wick at the bottom and a 5-minute rejection wick. But I didn't really care with the 5-minute. As you can see, we didn't even hit it. But we had the 15-minute rejection wick. And what I saw is that we edged the rejection wick, reaccumulated, and then we went down and tapped into the rejection wick. And here's some sauce for you guys. Normally, I like to wait for an internal stop hunt, right? I like to see our key level swept and then an internal stop hunt so that internally the high is protected before we take a trade, right? So that we don't get stop hunted before the price moves. But in this case, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I wait after we had tapped into our key level to resweep it? Because in this case, because we reaccumulated, we then generated liquidity on both sides again, and then we took out the downside. So literally, this was an internal stop hunt, but the internal stop hunt manipulated us into this low and the 15-minute rejection wick. So we got both together. Then I saw the 45-second. It just looked cleaner. If we look at the 30-second, it just looks a little bit less clean. It's not as big. It's like a really tiny 30-second. But like the 45-second, we ended up running here, and I was like, okay, this still looks good, but I want to get like entry in the gap or whatever. I didn't want to risk that much on this trade. We actually almost got stopped out. It was really close. And the other good thing about this trade is, like, hypothetically, if we call this a trend line, obviously, as you can see, we tapped the trend line before ripping back up. So we broke the trend line on the next candle, which is also a reason why I wanted to wait for the 45-second close. But anyways, we then just we literally all we did was we went break even at this internal high, which was probably like I don't know, maybe some sort of gap. No, it was just a high within a gap. Then we targeted the 5-minute, which was up here, and then we set like a soft profit target, which gave us 3.5 RR, and that's literally the entire trade. Because I figured, and then it did end up being a perfect take profit because we ended up reversing off that level. I was looking for shorts off this level, but we didn't get any type of gap to inverse on the way down. We only got a break of trend line, which ended up playing out, but you know, not taking this is gonna save you a lot more than it hurts you. And then here we had a 30-second play after we tapped into like a 2-minute rejection wick and this 30-second order block. But hypothetically, you would have, with the rules, you would have had to go break even once we hit this high, and then you would have gotten stopped out break even before we ended up running. And then I did call out this for probably like evals, so not an actual full trade call, but like for evals. Once we broke this trend line and inverse this 1-minute and 30-second, you would enter targeting, I guess, not here, but really you'd go break even there and then target like maybe this high for one target and then this high for the other target, which that, if you targeted that, you would have just gotten break even right now. But yeah, anyways, all love, guys. Have a good one. And yeah, Apex is 90% off still, Tradeify is 35, and Alpha's 25% off, so go load up. Love, guys. Alright, guys, let me go over the trade that we took today. Took a fucking banger long. Let me just get straight into it. I don't want to waste time. Going into the day, I was pretty bullish. We had kept really good structure to the upside. Obviously, at this point, we didn't have this huge down candle because this happened since open. So, like, it was like this basically, right? And we were rejecting out of this 1 hour. Rejected out of this. Looked good. On the 15-minute, we had this rejection block that I marked out from sweeping out this low and this low. And that was really the main target I wanted to see going into the day. We had a bunch of trendline liquidity going down into it, right? So we can let's get into it. But anyways, go down, and once we whoa, spoiler. We tap into it, and then we just get we tap into CE of the rejection wick. So if we grab Gambox, get CE. As you can see, we hit consequent encroachment of the rejection block, and yeah, we basically just get a V-shaper. I literally said the only way we're taking trade days if we get like a perfect V-shape recovery to the upside off of like our exact level, which is what we got. We actually front ran this because I saw that was about to close. I was confident in closing. And we took it up to just this 5-minute gap because I did expect bad price action, so I didn't expect a really good delivery. But we did end up getting good delivery. And I said the place you would hold runners to if you target higher would be the 930 wick, which did end up hitting. But at least like the 5-minute gap obviously still hit soft profit target. But even if you did end up actually waiting for the close, it was still really good trade, 1.5 RR or 4 RR. But yeah, either way, W trade, guys, and we caught a trade despite the bad market conditions. Hope you guys have an awesome day. As you can see, Code Daily gets you 90% off at Apex, 35% off with Tradeify, and 25% off with Alpha right now. So yeah, go stack up accounts, and yeah, peace out, guys. All love. What's up, guys? I just finished recording a fucking entire trade recap and I didn't realize my mic was muted. God damn. But anyways, let's just go quickly. Going to the day, I was pretty bullish. Sorry, by the way, I didn't call out any
trades today. I didn't call out. I have a very high like I take into account really highly what I call a trade call out, right? So we tape read 3 wins today, but I didn't call them out confidently enough to call them like a trade call out. So I'm not gonna call it. I didn't call out any trades today, but we did tape read 3 wins, 0 losses. But anyways, going into the day, I want to see this 1 hour tapped into. I didn't really see any draws to the downside I liked for shorts. However, what I did see going into open, what I did see is that we had this 5-minute BPR down here, as you can see. We had this 5-minute order block, and we were in a 15-minute. This right here is a 15-minute, right? So that's all fairly bullish to me. I just want you to see those tapped into. Unfortunately, out of open, we didn't tap into. As you can see, we didn't tap into the order block, but we did tap into the 5-minute BPR. I don't care about these lows at all because this low is protected actually. As you can see, this low was not protected. We tapped into the fair value gap for the first time, had a false swing up. Then we had a stop hunt, so that took out this liquidity. So there's no liquidity pool below here anymore. And as you can see, we reversed up. So this is protected low. We came down, and because that's a protected low, this is now an unprotected low, which is the only thing that wasn't good about this trade. Is that you're trading away from an unprotected low, but it was still a pretty good trade. It was like we had with the amount of volume to the upside, this is a pretty high probability trade, and I wanted to target this 1 hour gap we had up above. Right, it also lined up perfectly with if you mark out top to bottom of the trading range, as you can see, it lines up pretty well with 50%, so you could even target that or whatever, but whatever. Like the discounted fair value gap. But anyways, we the problem with this trade, and you could have so anyways, what I was gonna say is that unfortunately, because the break even rule here is that what you would have to do for break even is go break even as soon as we hit this high, or maybe it was, I think it was that high. Let me see. Yeah, as soon as we hit that high, and I believe in the very next candle, we hit that high by literally 1 tick, and then it came back down. So on paper, it should have been a break-even trade. However, a lot of my students discretionarily held this trade, which is not a bad idea because these are essentially relatively equal highs now, so it's kind of up to interpretation. And a lot of people cashed off this. Then I probably would have gone if you hadn't gone break even there, I probably would have gone break even on this candle. And then obviously you hit TP there if you have a stop take profit order. It's like 1.75 RR, if not 1.67 RR. And yeah, so that did cash after it, but on paper it was a break even trade. Then once we tapped into equilibrium of the trading range and the 1 hour gap, right? Remember, this is the 1 hour gap. We see that we don't create any 30-second inversions, unfortunately. Or sorry, we have this 30-second inversion right here, or this 30-second fair value gap right here. But we respect it, come back up, and actually get a stop rate. So remember, this high, even though it was sweeping out this high, it doesn't matter. This was not protected because it was the first mitigation of the 1 hour gap, right? The first time we tapped into the 1 hour gap. So this was still an unprotected high. Plus we had this high right here, which were like equal highs, relatively equal highs right there, which we took out both of those with the stop hunt, which is really, really bearish market structure. Like this looks like a market maker model, a bearish market maker model. So anyways, we're now looking for a step to the downside. Ideally, in this case, what we want to see usually is a 30-second fair value gap made here, a 30-second fair value gap made during the stop hunt, which we didn't get, unfortunately. So the highest time frame fair value gap, the one that looks best, we have this 1 minute gap here, and then we have this 2 minute gap here, which is the same. You have to get the same close as the 1 minute, so you really just have to play the 2 minute, which we did end up getting on this candle. You'd enter here, because this was now about to create a BPR, and because there's the 2 minute, which is higher time frame than like the 30-second, for example,
you can put your stop loss above a candle body high within the BPR, like with past, as long as it's past consequent encroachment of it. But anyways, a lot of people are asking me why. So, and then the reason that this is a really good trade is because we hadn't mitigated this order block yet. We hadn't swept this low yet. And the reason that that this is still, a lot of people called this a rejection block, right? A rejection block because we swept out these lows. But remember, this isn't a rejection block because what did I say earlier? I said that this is a protected low. And when we sweep a protected low, it doesn't mean anything. It's still a key level because there's no such thing as sweeping a protected level, right? Sweeping means like the term sweep is like you're using slang for liquidity sweep. You're saying like a liquidity sweep of a level. You're saying sweeping level is saying liquidity sweep. And if it's a protected level, then there's no liquidity to sweep. So it's not a sweep. We're just taking the level, which doesn't mean anything, right? So this was basically, regardless, so this is still a key level, and I saw this order block right here. So I use my soft profit target. I always use a soft profit target, and I let it loose a little bit here, or like that was what I marked out for tape reading it, right? But yeah, so that was the trade idea. Is you enter here, and then you basically, it is a significant wick. Is one thing that it is a significant wick. Like even though it's not a rejection block, it's such a huge wick that it is significant. So you can go break even at consequent encroachment of the significant wick. And as you can see, we go break even there. So your stops now break even. And by the way, this trade is 1.93 RR. Go break even there, and then it hits the next trade. It hits the next candle. You could have, if you wanted, even targeted consequent encroachment. Here, let's mark this out. You could have targeted consequent encroachment of this order block, but I think it's safer to not do that. A lot of times we'll just tap something and keep going. So I targeted this, but you could have targeted consequent encroachment and it would have been valid. And if you did that, it would have been about 2.3 RR. I prefer not to do that though. But anyways, after that, the trading day was didn't look great to me because now this is a protected high. So all your target for longs are going to be protected. Like this low is technically kind of protected on the higher time frames, but it still looked better than any of the other trades. But anyways, we get a setup here where we have a false swing down and then a stop hunt and then a 30-second inversion here, which this I also tape read, but this one was a break-even trade. But let me go over how we got break-even on this. Is we, so the problem with this trade is that this is a rejection block technically on the lower time frames. Like if you go onto the 15-second, it'll be more obvious, right? We have these lows and then we sweep it out and wick it. Right, so hypothetically, you could go on to the 30-second because time is fractal. You can do that, and it also, So that was basically the issue. As you can see, we created like. Okay, wait, hold on. I think on the 30-second it's more obvious. Okay, so created like equal lows right here, which you'd think would take us lower, but the fact that we were just honestly, like the fact that we were stalling once we hit this 30-second rejection wick, that we weren't pushing lower, I knew that if we were going to deliver lower, like by this point, if we come back, if we stop here, reject it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times in a row, and then come back up to our entry all the way up here, remember entry is here, then come back to our entry all the way up here, then this trade is just cooked, right? And I don't love the draws already. I don't love this is a draw, this is a protected low. I don't love this is a draw, this is a protected low, that's the whole reason I didn't call it out in the first place. I tape read it, that's why I didn't take it. But like I'm still tape ready. I'm still like some people took this. That's why I said to go break even there because I'm like, okay, this is looking really cooked. But anyways, that does save us. You get break even right here, and then as you can see, you would have gotten stopped out in the very next candle. And yeah, that was basically it for the day. And we kind of just moved up and down, and then we ended up having to move up later in the day. But yeah, so that was basically a recap of what we saw in the live today. What is up, y'all? Today we hit 3 banger fucking trades today, so let's go over this. Should be a quick trade recap for today. Okay, so going into the day, I was super bullish. We were trading within this 4-hour gap, which we ended up inversing after 10 a.m. So once 10 a.m. hit, we did inverse it anyways. It's also inverse. It was like a 1 hour as well. So we inverse all those time frames at 10 a.m. And I hadn't taken a trade before then. Well, actually, sorry. That's actually wrong. Going into the day, or going into 10 a.m., I actually took a. We took a. What the fuck, dude? I don't know why it's not showing. I think it was 30. Yeah, it was a 30-second. Hold on, let me find it. What the fuck? Oh yeah, we took this 30-second. We tapped into. We swept this low, which is the first mitigation of a fair value gap, which also manipulates into that fair value gap. Tapped into. If you look at this impulse leg up, tapped into OTE of this range, almost 79% extension, and also, obviously, if you do the broader range too, it's OTE. And was just going to take this up to this gap, so it did technically hit, but before I could take profit there, I already called break even here, so we went break even here. Before I could even call, I wanted to double check, so I zoomed out to make sure there weren't any higher targets. And literally, let me show you guys this 1 second chart. This entire wick from where we opened to the bottom of it is all 1 second. Look at this 1 second candle. From here, we opened up at, this is literally 8 a.m., and we go to the bottom of it. This 1 second candle alone is 52 points, which is like fucking insane. But anyway, so that was we technically won on that, but I didn't even count that, because a lot of people got break even on it. But anyways, we then tap into this. This gap. So I didn't count that one as one of the 3 wins, by the way. That happened before on top of everything, but most people just got break even on that, so I didn't count that. Then we end up sweeping that. This was my full key level for the day, which also manipulated into a 1 hour gap. I was also super confident in this because we had what's called 10 a.m. reversal. When 10 a.m. hits, we open a new 4 hour candle. If we move really hard in one direction, a lot of times we'll then pump up the rest of the day. And this is what's called a open low high close. So you open, so on the 4 hour candle, right? The 4 hour candle opened here. So we open, have the low, and then hit a high and then close, and then we close high, right? So that's open low high close. But anyways, tap into here, and we actually took, believe it or not, we took a 15-second. This 15-second, I said, all right, unfortunately we don't have a 30-second, but this is literally the best 15-second play I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, I literally said those words. I said it was the best 15-second play I've ever seen in my life. And we took this, main TP was up to, I'm trying to remember. I guess it was this gap. Unless there was I think there was like a 2 minute gap maybe. No, it wasn't that. I think so. Okay, I think there's a 1 minute gap here. I don't know where the other candle isn't showing though. But anyways, it was 2 around here. Oh wait, no, I think I took it less far. It might have been around here, but this is 2.31 RR. The reason, okay, hold on. So I was bullish on the day, remember? Whatever, broke this trend line, right? And we tapped into my key level. Literally, like the key level I'd have marked out since before market even opened. My dream scenario that I had for the trade idea of the day was us tapping into this key level and getting an inversion out of it, and then moving up. I did call runners up to this high, so we had main TP like somewhere around here. I think it was probably this high within this 30-second gap, which is 2.16 RR. But then full TP was going to be up here for for runners, because my idea for the day was for us to, or I think it was a rejection block, so it was to here. My main idea for the day was for us to hit this, sweep out these lows within this 1 hour gap, and then reverse out of it. So the reason I was okay with taking this 15 seconds because it was so high R on runners, and I was like, okay, I don't want to miss this play just because we don't have a 30-second gap. So in case this is the move up, let me get in this and then just go break even, go break even fast, right? Ends up hitting for 2.19 RR, and then the runners get break evened, but still obviously cashed main. Then we re-sweep this low, tap into like an order block, I believe, sweep out these lows, tap into an order block on the higher time frame. Then this one was a textbook setup. This one was the best setup of the day, by far the best setup of the day. We have this trend line down to the manipulation. We have this inverse fair value gap on the 1 minute. Perfectly inverse it with a really good volume. I think on the 30-second, we just place it below that candle body low. Oh, whoops. My bad, guys. And then, hold on. What the hell? Anyways, oh wait. Sorry, last thing. Remove. Yep. Okay, here we go. All right, sorry. Something with OBS. Okay, we can place it below the 30-second candle body low because in this case the reason I don't place it below the trend line is because the trend line's too steep, so it can't save us here. Otherwise, your stop loss would just be like fucking massive, right? And took this up. Full main TP was this high, or let me make sure. It was when we hit this 5-minute BPR. So main TP was actually a little bit lower. Main TP was 3.29 RR. And then once again, this is like the whole idea of my day. The whole idea for the day for me was to hit this rejection block. And as you can see, we did end up doing that for, it did end up being 11 RR. Let me tighten my stop loss to where I guess I had it a little bit tighter like that. Yeah, so like 11 RR, as you can see, on the 1 minute chart, whatever. Here's the rejection block. So there's 11 RR. Did end up just hitting. And yeah, crazy fucking trade. And as you can see, the reason we target a rejection block here, look at this. Right now, the rejection block is playing out. If you target this high, you're getting fucked right now. You just got edged, right? So here you go. Those are the trades of the day. If you have any questions, let me know. It's good, guys. Sorry for the late trade recap. I've been busy as fuck today. It should be pretty quick. I took 2 break-even fucking trades today, like a bitch. Some students cashed, but anyways, let's go over what I saw in the day. I'm not mad about it because it was like I would have cashed if I was on my regular accounts, but what happened is I cashed. I'm a day away from max payout on my Apex accounts, so I'm gonna get those. Or I guess I wouldn't get it tomorrow. Once I hit a winning day tomorrow, I mean, obviously, hypothetically, I don't, and then I have to wait another day. I have to wait until Monday. But probably what's gonna happen is I'm gonna get a winning day tomorrow. I just need $250 winning day. I'm gonna request max payout on Monday. So I didn't want to fuck up the winning day I had today from Asia session last night. So I just traded my TPT accounts. And so I wanted to go for super high RR because how they work is there's no consistency rule and there's no payout cap. So that's how I trade them. So I just went for super high RR. But anyways, what I saw in the day today, I was bearish. Going into the day, we had a huge dump off. We had inversed this 1 hour, and we'd closed below this low, which was super bearish to me. So my ideal situation, which I told them, was that we would come up, tap into this 1 hour gap, which I think actually was more specifically, I wanted this 15-minute gap. Or wait, maybe it's a 30-minute gap. There's a higher up one. Yes, 30-minute gap, so slightly higher up. And on the lower time frames, yeah, it was like we had low resistance up through here. So I want to see this taken, and then also I want to see this taken, but I was super bearish, and this was one of those days where I wouldn't have been surprised if we just ripped straight down, no entry, no trades today. However, we did get the dream scenario. We came up here. First trade was we tapped into it at a super V-shaped recovery to the downside. So I entered here off like a tiny pullback, right? Stop loss right here, and then targeted like my draw for the day was all of these lows, and this was technically a rejection block, so I really wanted to see this rejection block at least get tapped into. This was my ultimate draw for the day. I didn't necessarily, like, this is a protected low, so I didn't really obviously need to see that. Or sorry, I don't know if I should. This is a protected low, so I didn't necessarily know if I didn't necessarily need it because this swept out this low within this fair value gap, which makes this protected. So this is a rejection block. We have a bunch of trend line, we have a bunch of stacked lows leading up to it, so really good liquidity, right? We even have, looks like equal lows right here. Okay, almost equal lows, relatively equal lows. But anyways, a bunch of stacked lows. So like my draw was down here, so I targeted down here for 6.6 RR, right? And just break even was here. And this was also where you scaled. So I said, so this was when we hit this, it was 1-to-1. So I said, okay, scale here if you want to, so the 1-to-1 traders cashed on this because as you see, we went up, we almost got stopped out. We got so close to getting stopped out. We hit the break even point. Some traders scaled and cashed. And then we ended up getting break even right here, which it did save us. So I'm glad we went break even, right? Then we ended up going back up and we got a, so 1 minute. Yeah, this 1 minute. Oh, sorry, not this 1 minute. What I want to see was this 1 minute close through. We didn't get that. We super algorithmically held it, right? But it was like a ghost reversal. We weren't really reversing off anything, but we created a new 1 minute, which I was like, okay, if we inverse this, then I will take that. I don't need this one to be inversed necessarily, which we got here. So I took it off of a small pullback here. Super tight stop loss again, and went break even here because I wanted to see us dump and targeted that rejection block. So this was and with a soft take profit order, this was 12 RR, and this would have banked me like 36K. But what happened was we hit the break even immediately, inverse this gap. Then literally, I'm not joking. We at some point came up here and then rejected it. No, this was literally, look at this. I wonder if it's a 1 second. Dude, look at this fucking 1 second candle. This was fucking, you won't find a bigger 1 second candle than this. Literally not a single one. This 1 minute candle, 1 second candle, 43.1 second candle. So literally, we were all good in the hood, all chilling. One break even right here. In 1 second, boom, up and down. Boom, stopped out. And then it ran straight to, of course, the 12 RR profit target, which sucks. Lost out 36 bands. The trade idea was completely right? My idea for the day was tap into this 1 hour gap, V-shaped recovery to the downside, inverse fair value gap, and target this rejection block. And as you can see, we actually really fucking strongly, hold on, 10. But look at this, literally like that was the perfect profit target as well. Look, we ended up ripping. Go even farther. We literally, because I think this RTP, which is where you put your buy order, right? You sell here, buy here. We literally like bought the idea literally caught low of day, like literally low of the entire day, and we ended up ripping, going on to rip 434 points up, right? And we just kind of chopped the rest of the day. So that's what I saw in the market. 2 break evens, not bad. That trade did play out for. Hold on, let me show you. The trade did play out for like, I think 3 RR. Let's see. It got 3 point. Okay, it was like here. It got 3.5 RR before reversing. I don't know if we got actually this. Well, he was like 3.5 RR before reversing. So if you scaled at 1, if you scaled at 1.7 when we hit the break even point. If you scaled at 2, if you scale at 2.5, you scale at 3, or if you scale at 3.5, you would have cashed. Which also, like, what you could have done is technically this is a 1 minute rejection block. So hypothetically, if you wanted to, you could have scaled when we hit this, which was if you have a loose profit target, that's like 2 RR. But like I said, I was going for super high RR because of the accounts I had. So yeah, that's all though. Hope you guys have an awesome. Oh, by the way, here's a quick lesson on rejection blocks that we saw really cool play out. We had these stacked highs. We came up and swept it. Or never mind. Okay, what the fuck am I talking about? Never mind. It doesn't even matter. Anyways, okay, I'm fucking too tired for this. I'm gonna hop off. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I was about to say some bullshit. Anyways, love you guys. If you have any questions, as always, ask me. And yeah, can say congrats to all the exclusive boys who cashed off these trades. We had like people like Leo Sharon, Max, and some other dudes. I'd have to go into the thing and remember. But yeah, shout out to all you that made money off these. And yeah, love you guys. Peace out. All right, guys, huge day today. We took 4 trades. We took 3 wins and 1 loss. Unfortunately, so there's pros and cons to that. So the good thing about that is that we made a lot more money than you on a normal day, right? If you hit 1 loss, let's just say that cancels out one of the wins, even though 1 win would actually be more than a loss, right? Because if we have positive RR, so 1 win actually makes back everything you lost and more. But let's just say that 1 win makes back equal to what you lost. Let's just say it canceled it out. Instead of having that nets 2 wins on the day, because you have 1 loss, 1 win, so now you're break even in this case, like hypothetically, and then you have 2 wins on top of that. So it's a 2-win day as opposed to a normal 1-win day, right? So we made more than normal. However, it lowered our win rate. The win rate on the day was 75%, even though our average is 90%. So, you know, there's positives and negatives. But anyways, let's get into it. So, going into the day, I was pretty bullish. We swept both these levels out right before market open. The only thing that I want to see was us to tap into at least this 15-minute order block, which is also this hourly gap, right? Which we did. Wicked into it, and then out of open. That was right before open. And then, oh wait, hold on. That was before. Whoops. Yo, my bad. Holy fuck, I'm retarded. Here it was. So before open, what I wanted to see was us to take out these levels, right? And maybe tap into this, sweep this, but I didn't need that to happen. I mostly just wanted this level to be swept at least, right? Which we got. We then got a 5-minute inversion to the upside out of it, and inversed every time frame other than the 4-minute. The 4-minute hadn't closed fully when we entered, but every other time frame, the 5-minute, the 3-minute, the 2-minute, the 1-minute, and all 30 seconds, all were closed through. The only thing that was left was the 44-minute, which I don't really care about. And we just had a somewhat tight stop. I knew that if we went down off this, we didn't immediately go up, then we'd probably just rip through all of this because there wasn't anything until this low, and I'm not okay with putting my stop loss that low. So I had a tight stop, targeted this high over here, and this place got completely wrecked. So in one candle, it got hit out, but whatever. We recouped, right? So we took that loss. We then end up tapping into this level where we sweep this level. We end up tapping into. Oh, I thought we tapped. Okay, we tap into the hourly later. But anyways, we sweep this level. We sweep this level as well, I think. Yeah, we sweep this level as well. And then I see a huge rip to the upside. The reason I didn't take a trade down here is because we had this huge imbalanced price range of 1-minute gaps, right? Like a series of 1-minute gaps. So you'd need to see this entire range be closed through, which we didn't until this candle. And then once we did, it was kind of just bad entry. I didn't really have somewhere specific to put the stop loss, but we then ended up getting a confirmation setup on the 15-second. This is the first time you guys have seen me use the 15-second because I hardly ever use it, only for confirmation setups, which in this case we got entry on a little candle pullback. We got retracement and then a 15-second V-shaped recovery back to the upside. Went break even literally immediately as soon as we hit this high. Targeted, we got a loose, a soft take profit target at that high that we were targeting previously, right? Which we end up getting in 30 or 15, 30, 45 seconds, ends up hitting. So then, boom, we're up. Even though we just took a loss, we're up 0.7 RR on the day because we had, obviously every loss is 1 RR, because when you're talking about RR, you're comparing it to one loss. So like a 5 RR trade means if you take 5 wins and 1 loss, you're up 4 RR, right? So 1 loss is 1 RR. So we lose 1 RR on the loss, and then we gain 1.7 RR on this win. So we're up 0.7 RR on the day already. Then what I see is a V-shaped recovery off that level down to the downside. Now, the entry was technically right here. Literally what happened, I'm not even going to lie, guys, I was so focused on, we had a bunch of like annoying shit happen in the live where I was like fixing shit that I didn't notice it until we put in this candle. And I literally said, okay, honestly, you guys can enter this right here. You can enter right here. So we got entry here, and I think it was like here. Stop loss at this candle body high, and the break-even point was this low right here, and then the target was, let's see, let me refresh my memory. It was like this 3-minute gap. I think it was like it was a 2-minute gap as well. And then like the first percent 1-minute gap, I think too it was. Oh wait, I think that we targeted the first percent 1-minute gap. So we targeted this. So it was actually like, I guess you could have gotten 5 RR. For some reason I remember it being 4. So we might have gotten entry a little bit lower. Like we might have gotten this entry. I don't want to LARP. But anyways, that was our entry off that retracement. And then as you can see, we deliver lower, take that out in literally like less than a minute. So we're now, after that 4 RR play, we're now up 4.7 RR on the day. And then we chop around for a little bit. We do end up coming down and hitting this 1 hour gap down below that I wanted to see hit for a little while. We dump down to it. Super V-shaped recovery to the upside. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, we're fucking ripping now. Like, this candle is huge. You guys should have seen it. I think this entire candle, like, we pumped up to, like, here in, like, 5 seconds. So I'm like, okay, the only thing I see to take would be this 1 minute. The problem is that by the time that we close this 1 minute inversion, we had actually swept this, which would have been our break-even point. So now we would have to inverse this 1 minute to have a valid entry again, which we do end up doing. The next candle, oh, spoiler. We end up doing the next candle. Then entry there, soft take profit target here for, or I think on the 32nd we had tighter stop loss. It was like that, and break even was just wherever it wanted to be, but like I think it was that, and then but we literally ripped through that in less than a minute. So after that, I think it was like 2 RR. Maybe we did do this. Maybe it was like, I think it might have been like off the candle retracement, then we got like 2 RR like this, if I remember correctly, something like that, which gave us in total on the day 6.7 RR. And that was literally the day of price action. We were basically just chopping, and when we're chopping, I try and look more internally than anything else, which is why we basically, and then after this, the session was cooked because we took out this draw, we took out this draw, and we're literally just ranging. So basically everything after this was mostly just luck based. It was just kind of random. But yeah, so on a day where we basically are just getting straight up like ranging, you basically have to play internally more than anything, because it's like this price action isn't telling me that we want to deliver way higher or way lower at all. But yeah, love you guys. If you have any questions, let me know. Peace out. All right, guys, trade of the day. Let's go over it. Here was the main trade. So going into the day, we actually took I didn't call it out as a real trade. I called it out as a gamble. I called out this gamble, which it was, because it was literally the candle right before market open. We got this 2-minute IFVG, which inversed every time frame fair value gap. This 1 minute was the highest, and I said, like, you would just target like this high right here, which ended up hitting for fucking 7 RR, which is retarded. And it actually ended up running all the way to 15 plus RR before reversing. Completely retarded. But anyways, the real trade of the day, that was like an actual trade. This wasn't an actual trade. It wasn't an actual setup. It's just too much. It's just too risky to trade into market open. The analysis behind this trade was that we dumped through all of these lows, which created this low, but this low was technically protected, or it was unprotected. So when we came down, we had to come down and re-sweep it. Because the reason it wasn't protected is because most of these lows, like this low, was protected already, and this low is lower than both of these. So this is the main low, besides this one, which was already protected from these lows. So it swept protected lows, which means it is unprotected. And then we came down and reswept it, and then got a 2 minute to the upside and 1 minute inverse every time frame, and then ripped up. So that was the reasoning behind that, but it's just too risky to do it into open. But then the real trade idea we got was, here's the real trade of the day. We made this 5 minute gap. We mitigated it, creating this low within the 5 minute gap. Then down to lower time frames, we created this like 3 minute and 2 minute gap, right? And like 1 minute gap, whatever. We ended up mitigating it here for the first time, then creating equal highs, then re-sweeping them here before, and on our way up to mitigate it and then re-sweep it, we create this little trend line, which we broke on the same candle that we broke the 30 second, which we got, it was the 1 minute close as well. Or okay, we didn't even have 1 minute there, never mind. It was the 30 second was the highest time frame and the lowest, so we enter off that. I actually called it, I didn't see it until this next candle, but I said you can still enter here if we get entry again, and we did end up getting that literally to the tick, and then it was a 0 drawdown trade, straight down to what I said. I mean, we did it, we do it in cycles as always. So we created these equal lows, came back up. Well, okay, that doesn't matter. Regardless, we hit 1-to-1 once we hit this low within this 1 minute and 30 second gap. So I said, okay, break even here, and then if you're just a 1-to-1 trader, then take profit. Which, for example, someone like Swag Muffins, he only took a 1-to-1 because of consistency rule reasons, and he made 6K on the day. So he just exited here, for example, which is why I call it out. Then the main target was this 5 minute, this like the entry to, or the 5 minute, the low within the 5 minute gap. This was the main TP. As you can see, we did have a pretty strong reaction off of it. We did continue lower, and then like the main runner targets would be here, which is where someone like Dino exited today, for like almost 4RR. He made over 20 bands in the day, and then the last runner target for me at least would be here. It was a previous daily low, and then outside of that, if you just want to keep trailing your stop loss, then that'd be another thing to do, and you would still be in. But yeah, W traded today. All right, guys, today will be a quick one. We hit this banger, 30 second long, shortly out of open. Let me show you guys how we did so. So going into the day, I was actually somewhat bullish. Yeah, so we had inverse this 1 hour gap, and on the 30 minute time frame and 15 minute going into the day, we had just created this 30 minute gap here that we tapped into. It was also a 15 minute gap. The only thing that was bearish was that we respected this last presented 15 minute gap, which was also a 15 minute order block, but I wasn't too worried about it. The only problem was that, so I was looking for possibly a trade within here, but really I wanted a trade down lower, and what I saw was that I liked this 15 minute order block lined up with OTE, and then also especially what I liked the most was this 15 minute gap lined up with OTE, were my main key levels. As you can see, we come down, and let me go 30 second. And we end up tapping into the order block. Don't get a setup up out of it. And I noticed that we have this little trend line going on, right? Pretty hard trend line. Makes the most sense on the 1 minute. If we draw it like that, right? Then I saw this 30 second gap could be created, and I was like, okay, whenever we inverse this gap, we'll probably rip up. unless we create a new gap, which we can take for even better entry, but we don't, and we end up inversing this 30 second right here. And I said I'm not gonna. I didn't take this because I won so heavy on Asia session. But I called it like a few seconds before close, so about here was the entry, and I said that the final target was this 5-minute gap right here. Right, as you can see, we tapped into the 15-minute gap, and had that reaction out of it. I said, let's go to this 5-minute gap up here. First TP was at, like first small TP just for some partials was at this 10-minute gap, but I was pretty confident in that 5-minute gap. And this was just under 3 RR. If you had as tight of a stop as possible up to that body, then it would have been 3 RR, as you can see. This was a good trade. Another good way you could have played this is if you just waited for the 3-minute, and then you could have just entered the same thing off of that, and then maybe just trailed your stop like right here, and you would have gotten 1.5 RR, which would have been fine. Obviously played out, and then whatever, either way your break-even point was there. So yeah, good trade today. We got entry a little bit earlier, the 30-second, like around here, for 3 RR. But yeah, love you guys. If you have any questions, let me know. Peace out. All right, guys. Today we had a really bad day of price action. The reasons that we had bad, that I figured we would have bad price action today. There's a few reasons. So first of all, going into the day, we didn't have any, to me, enormously clear draws. We did have this 4-hour gap up above. We had there's also unfilled 1 hour, or I guess we tapped into it barely, but it was a 1 hour. We had an unfilled 1 hour up here, and we had a bunch of low resistance liquidity stacked. So this is trendline liquidity. So all of these are individual liquidity pools that we want to tap into. So those that's what I wanted to see taken out today. But we were extremely bearish going into the day. I mean, we've just been dumping and dumping. We had a huge move down overnight. We had these two lows that seemed like the only really clear lows around. We didn't hit either of them, and we did end up obviously swept this right here. We got this 1 minute to the upside, which was a break-even trade. It was decent trade idea. It was just an immediate break even because we had this trend line that we were currently respecting. So I said to go break even as soon as we hit this trend line. So we basically instantly got break even on it. We would have targeted at the minimum this high, so it would have been break even anyways. If you're wondering why we edged this high, it's because first of all we had bad price action. Second of all, technically you could say it's like a rejection block, but not really. I think it was just bad price action at the end of the day. But anyways, after that trade got break even, we ended up coming back down, filling this 2-minute gap or something. We actually inversed the 2-minute gap, which is kind of funny. Barely respected the last 30-second gap of the series, which is a good sign. It's pretty algorithmic to barely hold a gap like this. Ended up coming up, tapping into this, whatever, drizzling back down, and then we ended up getting this 30-second inversion to the upside, which is what ended up playing out. If you took this, you would have done this, that, and then targeted. I said if you're in this target this high, and then for full target, for runner's target this high, which ended up being, let's see what the exact RR would have been. It would have been 6.4 RR. But this was not a good trade. It was completely luck. I'm not going to act like I'm not going to take credit for a trade that I never would take. That was not a good trade. It was just a random. I have a class on this. You guys should watch if you haven't, class recording if you guys are in the exclusive. But this is what I call a coincidental inversion, where it's we just happened to inverse it. There's no actual reason, right? We literally came down and did nothing. We're not reversing off of anything. We just happened to inverse this gap. And if you didn't take this, or if you did take this, you probably took 4 losing trades before. And if you didn't, then it's just luck, because it wasn't any better than 4 trades before. But yeah, but for the reasons that I knew price action was going to be bad, first of all, we didn't have clear draws. it did seem like we wanted to go like there were draws to the upside, but not amazing draws, and we were dumping so hard. There wasn't really clear draws to the downside, so my bias wasn't clear. And when your bias isn't clear and you actually understand how to analyze the market, a lot of times what that means is that the market itself doesn't really know what it wants to do. And then secondly, a lot of times you guys will notice this, if we have a really good week of price action, price has been moving a lot, right? We've had enormous like 6, 8, 10 RR plays to and through all-time highs. When we have a really good week like that, oftentimes you'll see that the Friday after a good week of price action is really bad for price action. And then thirdly today was OPEX, which what OPEX is basically the third Friday of every month. A bunch of like enormous amount of like options contracts expire. It's kind of complicated, but basically a bunch of options contracts expire. So there's kind of like a tug of war going on in the market where like different expiring contracts kind of pulls the market. And a lot of times what you see on OPEX is us edging highs that we normally would take out every time, which is literally why we didn't take out this highs, because probably the mix between all those things. But yeah, if we look at the 5-minute chart, like this was just cooked. Like market open was here, and like this was basically the New York AM time slot that I trade usually, and then we literally just went up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Had like a million inversions, but like that's not when you trade. Then one of them that was not better than any other one happened to play out. The best trade idea for today, in my opinion, was this 1 minute. We didn't inverse it here. We only inversed it at this candle, and by then your entry was kind of cooked. You couldn't target here, and your break even. You have to go break even here, and the break even was only 0.72 RR. One good thing about it is we did have like a strong push up, so you could have had a tight stop because we were pushing up like this. So in this case, if you have a strong push up and then go on like the 30-second or something, you could have just put your stop here. A little bit risky, but you know, and I guess you could have gotten squeezed out like 1.3 RR. But the real idea would be to go break even and then target this ultimate high, which that would have been 5 RR, or if you were a little bit safer with it, you could have gotten 3 RR. But that was probably the best trade of the day. Not terrible. It did work out, but yeah, that's all, guys. And then since then, we've just been ranging up and down. So anyways, guys, love you guys. If you have any questions, let me know in the chat. Hope you guys have had an awesome trading week. Hope you guys have an awesome weekend. And yeah, let's keep fucking grinding. Peace out, guys. Yo, what's good, y'all? Keep this. Not very late. By the way, new chart colors. I don't know if y'all fuck with them. Let me know if y'all fuck with these or the old ones. I hope you fuck with this though. Probably change the color of these like this, maybe. I like probably green's better. I don't know. Maybe I'll stick with blue, but I like this. This look is clean. But anyways, here's basically the trade I took. As you can see on the 4 hour, we have this 4 hour gap right here. We're trending up, and we have what I like to call a like ghost reversal, and that's when we like don't really take out liquidity, but we still have a reversal. So as you can see on the 4 hour chart, we have this 4 hour bearish gap up here. And we have triple relatively equal highs. Technically, this is like I think above by like 2 ticks, but realistically, like with equal highs and a 4 hour, this isn't really rebalancing this price range nearly enough by like entering with 2, like literally just barely tapping it. Like basically like to the bare eye, this looks like it could be equal highs, right? You can only kind of see it because it's I have it drawn out right there. And also what you can see is that we have this 4 hour gap right here, 4 hour gap right here, right? And within this 4 hour gap, we have this swing low, which respected this 1 hour gap, so it's an intermediate low. And we technically, if we like when we're trading, when we take out this low, we're still technically trading within this 1 hour fair value gap unless we close below it. Then we go down to the, so I'm looking longs because of that. Not necessarily up to this level, because that is a super far move, and we have this 15-minute gap in the way.
I think there's a 30-minute gap as well, and order block. Yep, 30-minute order block, as you can see here, and 30-minute fair value gap here. So I didn't want to target all the way up to there, but I am bullish because that low that we just marked out got swept. I think we SMT'd it as well. Yeah, we didn't. Oh, sorry, we didn't SMT that, but we SMT'd. We had an SMT here, and that SMT was put in place as we swept this area and tapped into that 4-hour on NQ. So I was looking long off of there. And as you can see, we have the SMT, we have the highest, we have the SMT, we have the like bias that we have aligned with it, right? And so now I just want to look for the highest time frame inversion of the current trading leg on NQ. We can put ES to the side for now. And that was actually this 1-minute gap. But as you can see, this 1-minute gap came at exactly 4:45, unfortunately, which really sucks because I had a class that ends at 4:45. I can show you guys my schedule. It's 3:30 to 4:45. So I was walking back from class here, and once I saw this play, I'm like, bro, if we get like even close to this inversion, I'm gonna take this. And we have like these stacked lows right here, so I just put it a little bit below that because I can see it's coming down to sweep these lows and then reversing back up. My stop loss like around here, targeted the next unmitigated decently high time frame gap, which is this 10-minute. Oh wait, it was a 15-minute, sorry. This 15-minute. As you can see, we have this 15-minute fair value gap right here. And another additional pull for prices, we have this 10-minute right here. I didn't want to target that high, but we did have that there. We did go that high on. Yeah, we kind of want that high on ES, but regardless. I just want to take my win since it's Asia session. I don't expect a huge delivery, and because we do have a bunch of selling pressure. If you look at the 30-minute, we do, like, if you count this tapping into this gap, we do have really good delivery out of it. We have this 30-minute fair value gap. We have this 30-minute order block, like I said. So we do have a lot of selling pressure. And as you can see, we did perfectly top ticket. And I went break even at this intermediate high, at this like internal high right here. And as you literally, I called it. You guys probably saw it. I think while I was, I might like literally, I entered, I called it, and immediately we nuked up. Like immediately, right after I pressed enter, I look back at the chart and we fucking ripped. But yeah, so this was a trade. And if you had targeted this 10-minute, that was like an okay idea, but you definitely had to have gone break even at this high when that you would have gotten break even on it. But regardless, that was the trade that we cashed on. We have a little bit better volatility during Asia session because of the war news, which is the only reason I was on the Asia session. Yeah, cashed 1200. But yeah, anyways, love you guys. Let me know if you have any questions in the chat. This is just for you guys. I'm not posting this, so yeah, peace out.
Yo, what's good, guys? Just want to come on here and show you guys how fucking insane rejection blocks are. Just saw this play. If you see, we have this 1 hour rejection block. We swept this low and this low, technically, but like mainly this low, right? Rejected off of it, created this rejection wick. If you go into to the lower time frame, it also lines up with this 30-minute order block, which like just adds to the confluence. And literally, if you enter this on just 1 mini, which obviously in this case it is kind of a high risk, but obviously you can't go less than 1 mini unless you go micros. But for like the sake of this, let's say you get 1 mini, like we do get filled here. You literally bottom tick a move that at some point you're up over $2,000 on with, once again, 1 mini. And yeah, so I just wanted to point that out. And then if you guys saw earlier, I took me and crew, if you guys know, saw me and crew in the chat, we were fucking literally like draining the market earlier. The plays that I took was out of open, we tapped into this 5-minute order block. And then got, oh, holy shit. Oh, wait. My bad, guys. So we have this 5-minute order block. We tap into it, and then we got I think 1 minute. No, I got a 2-minute inverse rally gap out of it. This 5-minute order block also perfectly aligned with like OTE of this range, or sorry, equilibrium of this range. And then if you mark it from like this impulse leg up, it was OTE, but more importantly, well, it was barely OTE. It was more importantly was it was equilibrium of the broader range. And this also coincided with a nice trend line break. Just mark out like this. As you can see, we break trend line, and then on like the lower time frames, if we zoom in more here, like breaks trend line like this. So I took this. I scale it fast here because this was just for winning day, and I got more than that. But I went in tight stop loss up to like around here, I think. It was basically zero drawdown trade. And then we once we hit these highs, sorry, not these highs, up here we had this 5-minute rejection block that was created from sweeping out these equal highs, which I didn't do this, but if you put your limit at this rejection block, just put your stop super tight to the top of it, because as you guys know, if we took this rejection block and went past it, I would expect us to go to probably these highs. If we do that and target like this 5-minute rejection block down here, right, for example, as you can see, we get tagged in there, and this is a over 12-hour trade, and look, you literally perfectly bottom tick. And then once we got this 5-minute rejection block tap, this is the trade that me and crew actually took on like actual accounts. I took the first trade, didn't take the second trade. The third trade me and crew both took. You can see in our chats, we were fucking hyped. Was once we tapped into this rejection block, we noticed we had this trend line like this, and before we tapped into this rejection block, I was like, okay, I want to see it close above this 1-minute gap right here, right here. But what I noticed that when we tapped into this, we had a little bit of a retracement, and in terms of marking out this impulse leg, we hit OTE of that and created a new 1-minute gap, and that 1-minute gap allowed create a trend line break, which I got pretty good entry on, and we literally just held that up to, we could have gotten more points. This was also a tight stop like this, and we held this to this 10-minute gap. Crew might have held a little bit farther, but I just got 2.7 RR on it. If we had held to this 10-minute order block, it would have hit 2, and that would have been for almost 5 RR, but but yeah, so then as I was showing you earlier, we had this 1 hour, this 1 hour rejection block right here, which we ended up having a huge dump and literally perfectly, like, this is insane, guys. And if this ends up hitting to this gap, that's going to be like not even that high of RR, but just a complete bottom tick. So you could have even had a tighter stop, I guess, if it aligned with like as with the 5-minute order block too. So if you wanted the 5-minute to hold, you could have had like a mental stop loss where if we close below the 5-minute, you exit, and then in that case it was like a 6 RR trade if this ends up hitting. Secondly, I like this high better, but anyways, just wanted to show you guys that for some extra added sauce for you guys. But yeah, have a good night. Peace out. All right, guys. Today we took a dub called out a dub. I'm going to explain what we saw in price action today, why I took a trade so late in the day as opposed to finding anything earlier, and just, I guess, break down the day of price action today. So going into today, I was pretty bullish. We were we were trading past this 4-hour fair value gap, but a lot of times what you'll see is, especially out of New York Open, you'll see us rip back up to respect this, because obviously, New York Open is 30 minutes before the next 4-hour close. I did note that we had this 4-hour fair value gap down below that hadn't been mitigated. I also noticed that on the 1-hour chart we had dumped through this tiny 1-hour gap, but also like this big 1-hour gap, and that 4-hour gap lined up well with this 1-hour gap. However, I did see that we were at this 1-hour order block, which I guess was just extra bullish for me, right? And I saw that we had two 15-minute fair value gaps up above, which my trade idea in the first place was for us to come down and manipulate into that 4-hour gap, creating some type of 30-second, 1 minute, maybe even 2-minute fair value gap, and then rip back up to the upside and take the inversion all the way back up to this 15-minute gap, and maybe even you probably hold runners until higher, but at least partial TP and go break even here. 5-minute wasn't really interesting. We didn't have much until this gap all the way up here, which I wasn't really too worried about. But regardless, market opens, and obviously we want to see some type of sweep, right? I mean, at the minimum, I want to see a sweep of like one of these two lows. But even then, I wouldn't be too confident. I want to see ideally a manipulation into that 4-hour gap and 1-hour gap down below. But as you can see out of open, we literally just stall, tiny ass candle for open, and then we just start ripping. So literally once we had this candle right here, the candle after, and I saw such a strong close, I literally told the exclusive boys, okay, there's a good chance we don't get a trade today, because it looks like we're just going to go take out all-time highs without getting any sort of entry model. And as you can see, that is what happened. We didn't get any sort of entry model, and we came out all the way to, or okay, we didn't take out all-time high. Yeah, we almost did. We took out, oh yeah, I forgot. Okay, my bad. We edged all-time high, and the reason we did that is because this happens sometimes at all-time high. Sometimes all-time high will sweep a previous high. As you can see, we took all-time high here, and that swept this previous high. So technically, this wick is a 5-minute rejection block. I don't take trades off of 5-minute rejection blocks, or I don't take trades off of 5-minute rejection blocks that are at all-time highs. It's literally the all-time high wick, because it's just super risky. Like when we get this close, we could at any moment dump, right? But I mean, obviously in this case it did work out, and if you take trades like this, all you have to do is make sure to be consistent, because I mean, just this one working out, right? You put your limit at the rejection block and target, I don't know, maybe this 5-minute lined up with OTE of the range, right? And it's the midpoint if you would mark it from here, almost. But regardless, OT of the range, this 5-minute, right, that's 13 RR on like a tiny ass trade. And even if you put a little bit above, which you shouldn't at all-time highs, it's 10 RR. But really tight, that's 15 RR. So obviously that only needs to work out 1 in every 16 times, which is the only reason why it's even like okay to take. But what I want to see was, even though we rejected off that rejection block, that doesn't mean that these are protected highs now. They're actually not protected highs. So I wanted to see is now some type of set it back to the upside. And as you can see, we ended up creating this 5-minute. What we ended up doing is creating actually this 15-minute right here. And what I wanted us to do was to open up the next candle, mitigate it, so tap into it, and then creating some type of 30-second gap or something like that we can inverse back to the upside. Which, as you can see, we literally immediately, as soon as it opened up, immediately ripped up, which sucks. We did get this immediately, this 1-minute play, a minute into the 4-hour candle and the 15-minute close, which I didn't take or call out. I marked it out. We mark out and talk about a lot of trades. I did say it was okay. Like it was an okay pattern trade, but I don't like that we have this 15-minute right below. I want to see that mitigated first. And it's just like a huge stop loss, obviously. Unless you go down to the lower time frame and did this. which in that case you would have gotten stopped out. It did fail unless you went break even first, which there was no clear break even target, so you would have gotten stopped out if you took that. Then I wanted to see, we finally got pushed down. I wanted to see some type of, we inverse all these gaps. I want to see some type of reaction now back to the upside. This is, even though we rejected kind of off these wicks, this is not a rejection block. That's just kind of by chance. We didn't end up tapping into the 50-minute. We did get this 1 minute, which was decent, but in my eyes, there's no reason to take this if you didn't take the first one. So I wanted something better than both of those. Like, neither of these were good enough for me to take, but we did talk about this. I said it was the best one so far just because it was a better inversion than this, just because it's a tiny gap. This is a better inversion. We did get an internal resweep of this low, and this did end up playing out, obviously, but like I said, I wanted it just a slightly better play. Then we inverse this gap, so I was like, okay, we're definitely going all-time high now. We very luckily got a 5-minute gap, which we tapped into here. So I was looking for now possible re-entry. And as you can see, we did end up getting fairly late re-entry. Right here, we inversed the 1 minute on this candle, and this was the trade I took. Obviously, once we had this huge push up, had this kind of what I would call a ghost reversal. We aren't really reversing off of anything, and then rebalanced equilibrium of this trading range. This shows me, okay, we don't need to mitigate this 50-minute. Like, even if we come back down, it's not because we didn't mitigate this 50 minutes, just because we wanted to push lower. So, and at all-time highs, what you can do is you can just enter a trade and go break even really fast. To maximize RR, you can go break even really fast. With all this momentum, I want to see us push immediately up to this high. I think we put it right here. Well, let me zoom in and make this precise. It was right below this candle body low. Then just go break even here. On the next candle, we got really close to stopping us out, and then we immediately ripped up. One break even here. Remember, first main target is all-time high still. You don't want to see us lag at the rejection block, but which was unfortunate, but obviously our stop was break even by this point, so it was fine. Hit our our main TP, which was for 3.4. I always say to leave a soft stop or a soft profit target at all-time high, because a lot of times we'll rip through. So we got about, but I mean, either way, we got about 3 RR, right? And then basically I said, like, from this point on, it's just about holding runners. When we ended up we had this huge push up, and I was like, okay, if you're good with like 6 RR, then just scale out there, which we actually got scarily close to the runners hitting break even. By this time we were off, and I just gave this instructions. I was like, what I said was, if you're fine with 6 RR, you can scale out your runners here, or what you can do at, which I always say you can do at all-time highs. Anytime we take a long, I say it, you can just hold a runner almost all day until like whenever you want. And one strategy you can use is to just keep trailing your stop under like new trend lines that we make. So like here, for example, it's like, okay, we have this trend line, we seem to be respecting, so you can put your stop loss below, right? And then once we take this high, you can maybe say that this is a new trend line, then put your stop loss like right below it, and then whatever, if we have like and then usually you put your stop loss protected by like a PD right under the trend line. So like if we break through this gap to the downside and the trend lines, then like that's bad, so we want to get out. So you put like here, and once we have this, you put it like just below here. So I guess in this case, you would wait until the candle closure, and obviously we didn't break fully below the trend line here. If we draw our trend line more precisely, it'd be like this. So we still respected it. Push up, maybe you create a new trend line here, and say, okay, if we go below here, then I want to get out. And then I'd probably get out at this big candle down. It doesn't look great. But regardless, I did call like about 6 RR scales, like 5.9, and then I guess at that candle I would have gotten out. I would have been 8.5 or 8.23. It did end up going all the way to like, let's see, or maybe that was the top. Let's see. I went a little higher, so we ended up going like obviously you would, this isn't realistic to exit, but we ended up going like, if you, let's see, how tight can we make her stop? Okay, so I guess it would be on the candle close, so we would actually enter, we would have gone enter like somewhere between here and then right below this body low. So that's 9.8 RR, so I'll just under 10 RR. The awesome thing about trades like this is that once again, like, you hit a trade like this, and obviously you didn't scale out fully at 10 RR, so it's not exactly like 11 trades. You only have to hit this once, but in total you probably averaged from the 3 RR full scale to the, like, let's say just the 6 RR runner scale. You literally have to hit this trade one in every like 5 or 6 times, because it's on that, like, in total, like on that, like an average RR of like 4. So like you only have to hit this trade like one in every 5 times, and you're making money, right? So, but yeah, that's all. All-time highs is really easy to predict. We literally, if you don't analyze the charts at all and you just have a bullish bias going into the day, you're gonna be right 70 to 80% of the time. 70 to 80% of the days that we're trading at all-time highs, we will return to all-time highs. If you guys didn't know that statistic, so if you're wondering why we keep returning all-time highs, that is why. But yeah, guys, hope you guys had a good trading day. If you had any questions, just let me know in the trading chat.
What is up today, boys? Today we caught 3 bangers on live. We technically caught like, we were just calling out banger after banger. I only counted 2 because one, I just said that like it's really risky. I wouldn't call it a call. We had students take it though based off that call. So I'm just telling you guys here. But yeah, we caught 3 bangers on live. Only applied to the overall win rate, but let's get into the trade recap of exactly how I caught these trades. So the first trade I took, the Bane trade, was going into market open. Here's what we saw. So going to market open today, I was a little bit hesitant for longs. I'm never against longs at all-time highs. Let me be clear about that. We also had, or well, whatever, regardless. I guess we had data lows here because we had NFP, which we took out. So that's bullish, but we technically had a bunch of trendline liquidity built up here, which literally basically the only time that we could ever expect shorts at all-time high, or like be okay with taking shorts, or like see the idea of taking shorts, is if we have a shit ton of trendline liquidity built up, a bunch of low resistance liquidity that we want to sweep out, which I saw as a possibility today. However, we and if we saw that, I'd want to see some type of move up before move down, obviously, right? We also had inverse this 10-minute, right, which isn't good. But what I did also see is that we didn't really have any super high time frame fair value gaps on our way up. We had this tiny 5-minute here, which I wasn't too concerned about. The only thing I saw in our way of just ripping through all-time highs was this high within this fair value gap, right? This intermediate high. So, as if you guys don't know, if we have a high within a fair value gap, especially if on any time frame, but especially if it's on the 5-minute and above, that's a very much a key level to me. I have a full guide on key levels, which I include this in if it's yeah, whatever. But yeah, so this is, we not only expect price to often return to here, but I mean, not that much. Like, it's just kind of a normal high in terms of that. But the really powerful thing is we can often expect big reversals off of that, or like strong reactions off of it, because not only are you now delivering off of this high, you're delivering out of a fair value gap, right? So it's kind of like a double whammy there, you know what I mean? Kind of double level. So I honestly had a neutral bias. I was like longing. I prefer long at all-time highs because you can catch crazy RR like we did today, which you guys will see in a second. Let me just delete this. But anyways, market opens and let me go 1 minute at a time. Actually, let me just go to 1 minute chart. So 1 minute at a time, here's what market opens is we sweep, we pump down, sweep out these like these lows right here, relatively equal. They weren't equal, but they were relatively equal, which is good. We swept them out. We swept them out, and sorry with the car. We now clearly see a reversal to the upside, right? And the highest time frame gap that looks good for me is this 2 minute. So online, a lot of times you'll hear me say the highest time frame gap. However, when we have a gap that technically there is a higher time frame for,
but it doesn't look good, that goes into my discretion, and I usually will take the better looking one. Like, for example, this 5 minute doesn't really look like it matters to me. I couldn't imagine, even if we wick down from here, right? If we pump up here and then now just dump straight down, I don't think that that's because we're respecting this gap. Like, we might happen to respect this gap, but I don't think, I 100% would be, I would never think that that's the reason why. The better gaps to me is this 2 minute gap is the one that looks the best to me. The 4 minute gap looks also decent, but they close at the same time, so they both got inversed. The 3 minute looks pretty bad to me. It's just even smaller than the 5 minute, right? So we inverse the 2 minute, and this is where I called entry. Literally, just once we inverse the 2 minute, obviously we mark an order, right? And remember, we have this 5 minute intermediate high right here. So I wouldn't say I expected it to be a break even trade, but I was very much looking for it to be a high possibility of being a break even trade, because this is our break even point. Let me add PE. PE. Right? So once we hit here, I'm just going to go break even. And I put my stop loss. I went to the 1 minute chart and just put it below the top of this top wick. It was more of a just kind of like random. Like, if we do this and then react off of it, that's not going to look good. I didn't have any clear, like, we don't even have a 30-second gap. So if we if we immediately reverse, I would mostly expect us to just continue lower. So having a pretty tight stop loss was good there. I do also want to point out, this didn't really matter to me that much, but we did also have a trend line break with that 2 minute. If we go on the 2 minute chart and we mark out this trend line, we had already broken trend line, but we retested it and held trend line. And then also, if you look at like this for trend line, as you can see, it kind of held here, 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 multiple touch points, right? We broke that as well on the 2 minute inversion. Like, we wrecked it. It didn't really matter to me, though. I wasn't really going to my discretion, but just so you guys are aware. And then our first TP was, of course, at all-time high, which was right here. Hello. Mark that out. All-time high, right? And what I always... Oh, let me do this up here. Which it hit very fast. It hit 2, 4, 6 minutes. Less than 6 minutes. Which, by the way, what I always preach is to leave runners when we're at all-time highs. So from here, it wasn't too much of like I didn't have a specific like exit call. It was kind of like, if you whenever you meet your consistency rule, whenever you have the most amount of money to where if you make any more, you'll break your consistency rule, or if you're on eval or whatever, you pass your eval, whatever it is, like exit, I guess, when it feels, when like, I don't know, like whenever it makes sense to. But what I usually do is I wait for a swing high to appear. So what I called was first TP at all-time high, and then once we create the swing high, exit first runner there, like set your profit target to here, like one of your runner profit targets to here, and then set the next one once we made this high, which that's what I called. But I did say that, like, feel free to hold your runners as much as you want, but I generally give like exact like entry and exit calls, and that's what I just try to do. You know, it's always better safer than sorry. Like, I don't think anyone's complaining at over a 6, and even if you put it like below the inversion, that's 5 RR trade, but like what I got was like a 6 RR trade. I don't think anyone's complaining about 6 RR, right? So, but we did end up pumping way more. But anyways, the second trade we caught was right here. Actually, we had another setup, and let's go over it. So we had this little retracement. Let me just delete this now. You guys understood this trade. So we're at all-time highs. We're pumping, and I see us huge pumping, right? We get to all-time highs here. We have a small retracement, then a huge pump through it. Huge leg, like an enormous impulse leg up, right? And another big leg. So this retracement to me is very low probability of us ending in a full-fledged reversal, right? We'd have to break through all of this. We have a 15-minute gap that ends up being created. Oh, oops. Spoiler alert, don't look, guys. 15-minute gap that ends up being created like here, which we could have waited for reversal off of, which we do in the future. That's a spoiler alert. I guess we hadn't even created that yet. But anyways, let's go back down to here. Let me just move this over here for now. But anyways, we have a small retracement, and I see this 30-second gap, and I say, guys, honestly, what could be a play here, wait for this 30-second to get inverse to the upside. It's a BPR as well. right? This is the BPR. On close, we'd also be closing this BPR, obviously. This is BPR. If we close above here, what you can do, if we get a good close, like in between all-time high and the inversion, is have a tight stop. Once it closes, enter, and then as soon as we go hit all-time high, go break even, so that if we keep ripping up, you have an entry. And that's what you get at all-time highs. You can have little trades like this where you can go break even 5 times, but if you get in one time and catch a big move up, you can catch like 10, 20 RR. But anyways, we don't immediately inverse it to the upside, and we actually end up creating a little bit of a trend line here, as you can see. To me, it makes the most sense from here. As you can see, we have touch point here, here, right? It seems obvious that it's kind of like getting squeezed right here, right? And we create a new 30-second gap right here, which we end up inversing. And on that inversion, I called entry moving now you break even to here, because once again the whole point of this is to risk low by having a by putting your having a conservative break even point. And in this case, I did consider the trend line break. As you can see, we broke it right before the inversion. But on if we look like the 1 minute chart, for example, obviously didn't close until the 1 minute chart didn't close until then. But anyways, rip through the 1 minute trend line and the 30-second trend line, the same trend line. Go break even here, and then as you saw in the next candle, we get the break even, and then we just continue ripping. We put our stop loss below the candle body lows right here, which is also just below this candle body low, where we or the wick low, so that's protected by the trend line as well. And if we had come down here, I probably would have extended it a little bit to here, just to give it a little bit room to breathe. And if we had inverse this gap to the downside through this trend line, I would just exit there. But at the time, the trend line was here, right? We ripped through that, and we first TP wasn't here because it wasn't 1-to-1, but first TP, if you took it at 1-to-1, was obviously here. We got 2, 3 RR, and then we continue even higher if you want to set your TP like I do to this to the new internal high that was created, and waited for that to get reswept. That would have worked. We pushed way past that though. So we actually caught low of day twice in a row, twice in one day. And when I say low of day, what I mean is, I guess the low of it was the lowest point for the rest of the day. It wasn't actually the lowest price caught that day. We didn't catch the exact bottom, but we caught the exact bottom for the rest of the day. Price the rest of the day never went lower than our entry point, right? So if you just held break even and held for the rest of the day, you can see that. Hold on, let me just exit, honestly, exit this replay so you can see. From this trade, the all-time high you got was 17 RR, and where price ended was 15 RR, 14 point, 14.5. And then if we're talking from the 2 minute, which was right, yeah, here was the close, just below the 1 minute candle wick low, and we marked that out at max. It got up to a 19 RR and ended the day at 17 RR, which once again, that's just runners, it doesn't really matter. I would just be up to your discretion. But anyways, the last trade that I called for the day, however, I didn't really count it as a trade because it's not one I said I wouldn't have taken it, which I wouldn't have. It was just too late. We had pumped too much. Let me go back into replay mode. We had this little. Oh wait, is this no? Okay, yeah, this is it. This was more of a pattern trade. I can't remember. Let's see what time frame gap we had. I think we tapped into a 2 or 3 minute. Tiny 3 minute, better 2 minute. Yeah, we tapped into this 2 minute, as you can see, right here. Go down to the 30-second. We can see that we have this small, not great looking 30-second inversion or fair value gap, right? We also have this trend line, which this I 100% wouldn't have taken. This was a trade idea I saw, which it did still work out on paper, because I guess once we broke the trend line, you'd wait for. Okay, wait. I don't think wait. This isn't the one I took. This one is, yeah. So okay, yeah, I was right. So this one did play out. It was just like not good. So we closed up here. We ended up breaking it here. But if you enter off the inversion, which you could have, you would just have to put it below this candle body low. If you put it here, that it would have failed. But which isn't good. But if you had a loser stop loss, it would have worked out. But like I said, I wouldn't have taken this. I wouldn't have taken the next one either because we had pumped so much already. But the better trade that I saw in this was when we had this. The reason, by the way, that if I wasn't clear enough, the reason that was not a good trade is because this 30-second gap is really tiny. It's really bad, and that's basically the main reason. It's just this is not a good inversion, and this trendline break. We didn't get the trendline break on the same candle of the inversion, and also we never broke the 1 minute trend line, which would be more like this, or at most like this, if we include like the bodies. We never really broke that. But we did have a 1 minute gap, by the way. So if you did enter this, you would enter off the 1 minute, and then put it below like whatever these lows, either whatever I guess you want to do. But I wouldn't have taken that trade ever. The trade that was decent to me though is we had a resweep and retracement, and when we had this, we actually ended up. We have this trend line now, which perfectly lines up with these candle bodies, these candle bodies, these candle bodies, and these candle bodies, right? And if you try it like this, you can kind of see it. You could even say it hits the wicks. Like that's kind of up to discretion though. But regardless, this is a much stronger trend line to me, like a much more algorithmically holding trend line. Like I think that the reason we reversed here each time is because of the trend line. And we had a new 30-second gap. And this also lines up with the 1 minute, by the way. This 1 minute, it looks obviously very clear on the 1 minute. We never broke above it, right? And then we have a new, actually good looking 30-second. Like this is a 30-second inversion that looks good. I would never take a fair value gap inversion that looks like this ever on any time frame, even like a higher time frame, but especially not the 30-second. And so when we close this, we break. This is actually what like an inversion trendline break looks like. Like this is what we want it to look like, not where we inverse it and then have to go up to it. This is what we want it to look like. So this is when you can now put your stop loss below the inversion body low, which is also protected by the inversion itself and the trend line. So this is an actually good trade. I said I wouldn't take it. I've taken it. I would have taken it if it was at any other time in the day, but I wouldn't have taken it because it was so late in the day, and we had pumped already so many points. But if you also draw out the original trend line that we had drawn out, like this, on like, or what the fuck am I even saying? Oh, here was a trend line which you could have looked at, I guess, is if you. This was not a good trend line, but if you drew it from like this, then we technically broke it here, and then we held it. And if you had taken, the way you could have won by taking this inversion is if you played that break, and then kept your body and like let it breathe by having it protected by the trend line. So like obviously originally it would be here, but then once we got to here, you would have moved it down to have the trend line still protected. And then once it moved all the way to here, you would have obviously had to move your stop loss farther and farther down. That would have worked, so that trade technically never failed. It just still wasn't good though, and if you had played it in certain ways, it could have failed. But regardless, this was the last trade of the day that I called that we had students take. I just didn't. It was not great to me. We got two much better trades earlier in the day. But regardless, if you had basically this day was the type of day where it doesn't matter what the fuck your setup was. If you press buy at any time, and this did end up running if you had runners to 2, 3, or 4 RR, it did hit. You would have gotten break even if you held longer than that. So this one didn't catch low of the day like the other two did. But we did get like a decent play here. Again, we tapped into the 15 minute that I marked out earlier and then got an inversion to the upside. this was okay as well. But once again, what I was going to say is that this was just one of those days where if you pressed buy at any time, you won. Like, it didn't really matter the entry model. Like, I wouldn't even take credit for, like, oh, my entry model is really good. Like, obviously it's really good. It caught low of day twice. But at the end of the day, this is just one of those days where it's easy. Like, this was all-time high, and we pumped this much. If you want to see how many points this is. Okay, we pumped over 500 points up. Like, you know, so it gets to a point. But yeah, I hope you guys are having an awesome day. I hope you guys continue to have a good day. Yeah, call these in the exclusive live like I do every day. We're currently, I believe 40 for 44 or 42 for 46. I posted it earlier, so look at it. I think we might be 42 for 46 now. But yeah, hope you guys are having an awesome day. Hope you guys have an awesome weekend. If you're in the exclusive, you know that we have 2 classes coming up. We have a class on Saturday and Sunday, so both the next 2 days. And yeah, have an awesome day, guys.
So going to market open, we had just absolutely dumped. So you'd think continuation shorts. However, we didn't have any draws to the downside, really. We only had draws to the upside. Like, we had these highs right here. We had like this high, right? If we go on the 1 hour, we didn't have any gray targets or great targets for either targets or key levels for reversals. This was I marked this out as this is the entrance of this rejection block on the 1 hour. This is the best thing I saw was this 1 hour rejection block, so I marked out the entrance of it. As you can see, out of market open, we open right here. We instantly come down, sweep it, and then get a perfect inversion to the back to the upside, which I took. My executions, if you see my story, I posted on my story. My executions are a little bit funky. Here, I'll show you. Because what happened actually is I entered on 2 minis on accident instead of 1. It's like, holy shit. So I just exited as soon as it went back to my entry. And then I re-entered on 1 mini, and then just took that, and I took that up to this 5 minute up here. What the hell? I don't know why it does that. This 5 minute right here, and then I just TP'd it, so I just did a little bit higher than the 5 minute, and there you go. It was like 1.4 RR around. It ended up playing out for a lot more, but we would have gotten break even first if we just went break even there, which we would have had to at least do. So definitely, obviously not mad that one ended up running more. Then after we hit that play, we ended up coming up, and we didn't hit this 15-minute reject or order block, which I wanted to see. We did sweep out like a good level of liquidity, and then break this trend line to the downside and inverse the 1 minute, 30 second and everything, and got entry. And then when I wanted to, I didn't really love it because it was kind of a pattern trade. I wanted to see the 15-minute taps, but I was like, okay, this is a decent trade. It's kind of a pattern trade with my model though. But anyways, we ended up so far I said that I would probably have gotten out around here personally just because I didn't love the trade, but technically the trade is like to here. So we'll see if this plays out. Maybe now that we got this resweep and this protected low, maybe you just exit here for 2.6 RR. But this would be like the overall target would be 3.9 RR. But yeah, a lot of people cashed today. If we scroll through here, I mean,
All right, guys, if you made it all the way to the end, congratulations on all of the new knowledge you gained. I hope your brains and notepads are full. If you remember that I do post these live trade recaps every single day in my free Discord that I will link down below. I also live trade every day in my exclusive Discord that is in the exact same link. If this video was a little bit too complicated for you and you had a few concepts that you didn't fully understand, go ahead and click the video next to my face that goes over exactly how the market moves every day, and go ahead and click the other button next to my face to subscribe to the channel for weekly educational content, and feel free to leave a like and comment down below any video suggestions you have. And I hope you guys have an awesome day. Good luck trading. Love you guys.